Hello, this is Craig Mertens, Director of Product Education for Inktavo, the parent company of GraphicsFlow, Inksoft, and Printavo. Welcome to the webcast today. I have a very special guest, David Gross from Conde Systems. David and I have known each other, I don't know, I hate to even go back and try to calculate it, but it's probably pushing 25 years.
I think it is, Greg. And what a fun, exciting industry. And think of all the innovation that you and I have seen over these years.
You know what? The fun part about that innovation, we've been instrumental in a fair amount of that. So that's been a lot of fun. And one of the reasons I love doing, webinars and education events with David is we align very closely in terms of our philosophy of taking care of customers. And that is such an important part of both companies in terms of making sure the customer has a positive experience. So, the work really starts, David, I think after you collect somebody's money, not beforehand, right? So you want to make sure that customer has a positive experience, and Conde has just done a phenomenal job with their customers and our shared customers. And I'm always very positive about recommending the company. With that being said, go ahead.
Our model, of course, is that we're a consultative company. We're education. We want to help you buy the right stuff. We want to help you be successful with what you have, and to grow you. And we'll talk about new resources since we last talked about that are focused on these goals. I mean, it's an ongoing evolution in today's industry where companies like us need to innovate. We need to shine. We need to show you why we're the right company to help you.
100%. And you answered my second question, so we can skip over kind of the corporate philosophy. But I do want to ask you, how did you get into sublimation? Because I go all the way back to like the Seiko 4104 ribbon printers, but how did you guys get into sublimation? Because David, he's a humble man. He's in my opinion, in our industry, he's the leading expert on this particular production process. So how did you get into this?
Well, thank you, Craig. So in my first life, I worked for a company called QMS. And QMS really was an innovator and ultimately created the world's first monochrome laser printer, which is what I helped do. And that printer became extremely important. Other companies came along afterwards, like HP. And so ultimately that company was purchased by Konica Minolta. And at that point in time, I was out on the streets and really sharp. It was the birth of digital imaging. It was really the birth of color printing. And so I just did a little research and I identified what I believe to be a high value use of digital imaging and printing. And that really came down to transfer printing and sublimation. Those were two technologies that were really being birthed at that point. Sublimation goes back further because it goes back to around 1938 when they first observed accidentally about dispersed dyes and staining materials like acetates, then World War II, nylon, polyester, and then coming all the way up to 81, which was the birth of the IBM PC. With the birth of the PC, printers were needed. Companies like Seiko came and started making printers. Seiko is the parent company of Epson, interestingly enough. And so we've just ridden this wave, and it's been amazing. And we'll talk about today all the acronyms that are out there today with getting people in the personalization business. And one of the things I love to mention is we all are familiar with hacks, right? We have a hack for this or whatever, but ultimately, if a hack is really good, it becomes mainstream.
Correct.
And an example of that would be when the first cell phones came out, they had a little light on the back of the phone that was the flash. Well, some interesting people said, well, yeah, but why don't we turn that into a flashlight? And that's exactly what they did. They wrote a little app so that you could turn on that camera flash, keep it on so you could use it as a flashlight. Well, now that's not a hack. That's mainstream. and we'll talk about our industry and things that are still hacks, things that are now mainstream.
One of the things that, I think it's really important to talk about when you talk about sublimation is how it's different than other decoration processes. And I think there's a lot of assumptions that are made by people. Oh, digital. It must be able to go on everything. But there's some kind of ground rules with sublimation. And so how is sublimation different from, say, white toner laser, direct to film, DTG, other digital imprinting processes, UV, another example?
So in the hack world, which I just talked about, people are doing all sorts of very innovative and exciting things with mixing the technologies. For instance, there's a bunch of videos of using sublimation as a DTF printer. So you would basically run a piece of film through your printer, through your sublimation printer, put sublimation ink on it, sprinkle it with the white powder, and you sort of made yourself a DTF transfer without white. And so the innovation of trying to cross lines to make technologies do things that they originally couldn't do is certainly very exciting. One of the hacks that's pretty much now not a hack anymore is running sublimation vinyl through your printer or sublimating to vinyl, and then you can put it on, say, a black shirt. So there are certain things, and that's a popular product. It's by Caesar. It's Easy Subli Vinyl, and there are a couple other vendors who sell it. So all sorts of things. But in the world of, we'll call it true sublimation, you'll need to transfer to what we call an oil-loving molecule, meaning something that's polyester. It either is made of polyester, like fabrics, or it's coated with polyester, like you would spray a polyester coating on a mug. And so the world of sublimation today is absolutely viral. You go into Walmart, you'll see much of the clothing there is now done with sublimation to polyester, because if you think about it, it's on demand, personalized, photographic quality, and minimum quantity of one. So you really have just a tremendous advantage over, having to, for instance, for Walmart to order 100 of something. Well, they can order a smaller quantity, or a boutique store can order smaller quantities. So it needs to be made of polyester. It needs to be white or light colored, or coated with polyester, but also white or light colored. One of the true hacks that really is mainstream is we have just gorgeous light colored shirts by Vapor, and they are drop dead gorgeous. They produce excellent quality images.
They're great to wear. That's my sun protection shirt that we wear on our walks here in Arizona. The Vaporware shirts, they're terrific. And, the white ink. So the part of the reason that we're not printing on darks is that we're not depositing white ink to print on. And we'll talk about that a little bit later, because that's evolving and that's changing the sublimation world very rapidly. So yeah. To me, the beauty of sublimation is the versatility, the amount of products on the personalization side that you can produce, from wearables all the way to gift items and to awards and things of that nature. And then also, it's a low cost of entry. It's a business to get into it's affordable to get started.
One thing I failed to mention is that sublimation is a completely unique technology. There's nothing else like it. It is subsurface decorating, meaning the ink turns into a gas. It diffuses into the substrate, either polyester coated, and so it's embedded inside of it. You can't feel it. The hand of the product doesn't change. And because of that, you're able to achieve colors that no other technology can achieve. Bright, vivid colors that are really unknown on any other technology. Plus, it's obviously abrasion proof. It's graffiti resistant because it's inside of it. So if you need to clean the top side of something, you easily can with lacquer thinner or whatever. So it's an amazing technology. And one of the innovations that's just occurred is that we now have really our first true outdoor sublimation ink, very long life outdoor sublimation ink. And with this ink, mirroring it with the Universal Woods outdoor Chromolux, we can achieve a fade resistant product for 10 years. 10
Wow.
years without any noticeable fading. And to my knowledge, there's not another product on the market that's full color that can do that. So the inks are available. They're called Helios inks. And you could pour them into pretty much any printer you wanted to. But if you pour it into a typical desktop printer, you're going to need to profile the inks because they're a little bit different colors. The systems we sell are for people that are going to print for, outdoor parks, you name it. But outdoor signage companies, and we would recommend one of the bigger printers like the Muto RJ900X, which is a 44-inch printer. But you can achieve amazing longevity. And I think we'll see additional substrates that take advantage of the Helios technology. But that's certainly, call it state-of-the-art with sublimation, 10 plus years outdoor life.
So there's multiple formats for sublimation, and I kind of grouped it. And maybe I didn't get the nomenclature quite correct, but I always look at kind of small format desktop format, which is the desktop printers. I know there is kind of a medium format that you were kind of referring to, maybe with the bigger Epson printers, and then there's this whole nother world of large format sublimation where they're doing the trade show backdrops, like what's behind me. That whole backdrop curtain there is all 100% sublimated, and it's 7x5. That's pretty big, and I think that those probably go through a roll-fed heat press, right?
So we call that grand format, and that's typically printer can print, usually wider than 60 inches, and the heat presses look like large lamination machines.
Right.
They have hot cylinders, and you basically pass the paper and the fabric together through the heat press, and sublimation occurs as it's going through. And we call those rotary or calendar presses. And, if someone was interested, what I would say is you should outsource it first to prove your business model. It's not the kind of thing you simply want to go out and buy. They require a fair amount of setup and training. But ultimately, the market is certainly there in so many different ways. For instance, you mentioned trade show backdrops. Trade shows are back in full swing, and so definitely a market. On-demand custom clothing, whether it be uniforms or anything like that, we call that the cut and sew market. You don't have to use a rotary press. You could use a large flat press like a George Knight 44x64. But bottom line is that sublimation absolutely has found its place in different markets like trade show, uniforms, and there's no technology that's even going to touch it. Other markets are out there as well. For instance, custom furniture, whether it be a man cave, NFL, college, something like that, being able to produce on demand, whether it be high school, college, you name it, on demand furniture is just absolutely amazing. And you can do it so quickly by speaking to folks like us or others. We can certainly point you in the right direction. What I would tell people to do is before they're going to spend to buy a big system, probably partner with someone. We do fulfillment all day long here for large format, and speak with someone and to prove your business model. The technology definitely works. But you need to make sure that you've got your sales and marketing dialed in for success.
But the small format is kind of the bread and butter, right? The desktop sublimation.
So we've seen a revolution, and really I can trace it back to COVID, when a lot of folks were obviously working from home and needed to do things, and they were buying sublimation systems to begin their personalization business. And those folks, for the most part, did very well. And many of them have gone back to the office, but continue to do stuff on weekends. And that market is amazing because, you buy a system. Well, the system doesn't care how often you use it, whether you use it every once in a while or a lot. But your goal would be to use the system a lot. And so that's where Conde comes into helping you with webinars like this and videos and our resources, because the market in the thirst for on-demand, personalized, full-color, photographic quality, minimum quantity one products is intense. And we have thousands of products that you can decorate, in minutes. Certainly the biggest category today is the drinkware category. And it's certainly a category led by the ladies with the beautiful tumblers that we sell. And these products are high quality. They can be done easily. And another innovation in the sublimation world that was a hack but is now mainstream is using a countertop oven like I have in the back here, I guess on this side, and in putting your products in there to decorate them, using that as the heat press.
Wow.
And we came up with a product called Sublimate that basically, after you put the transfer on the tumbler, you basically put it in a plastic bag, hit it with a little heat gun, and it shrinks around it, and that provides the pressure to hold the transfer to it, put it in the oven, and a few minutes later, you take it out and you're done. So the oven has really turned out to be mainstream and is now taken to be a normal accessory that almost every sublimator would have. So it's Hamilton Beach. We like it. You could use a home oven. The real catch to it is that you don't want to mix the oven for both food and sublimation.
Makes sense.
It's either one or the other, but certainly not both. But that's been a very serious hack that turned into mainstream, and it really opens the door for introducing even more products into the oven that there's not really a great way to do them in a mug press. For instance, my favorite product for the oven is the shot glass. So we have a large line of shot glasses, and before it was incredibly painful to do a shot glass with a wrap, or in a mug press for that matter. And now with Sublimate in the oven, you're good. The oven's always been with us. It's just been mainly used for the high volume mug people, and it was more of a conveyor kind of oven.
Yeah, I've seen those at the trade shows.
And Hicks Corporation is the ovens that we sell, and those would be great for people that have very serious volumes. But your typical sublimator, the countertop ovens definitely get the job done.
So in terms of the printers themselves, I know Sawgrass has their line of desktop printers, but I've seen a lot of our clients are purchasing, I guess you would call it small to medium format, Epson printer. What's the advantage of the Epson printer versus the Sawgrass? I know it's considerably more expensive. We chatted about this a little bit in the past, but what's the advantage of going with the Epson printer?
So in the market, what we're after is a piezo printhead printer. And the folks that do piezo printheads are primarily Ricoh and Epson. Those are the two brands. the Sawgrass printers are made for Sawgrass by Ricoh to their specifications for sublimation. And Epson, some years ago, created a line of their printers called the F Series. And the F Series were their DTG and sublimation printer. And in the sublimation world, the Epson printer we sell for sublimation is called the F570. The F570 is a 24-inch wide printer. It will do cut sheet, it will do roll, and it uses a bottle ink. So you pour ink into it, very much like the Echo Tank, and it's a great printer. The inks are relatively inexpensive, and so highly recommended printer, very popular. The Sawgrass printers are smaller printers, so they cost less, and they have a small desktop printer called the SG500 that will basically print 8.5 by 14. If you buy the bypass tray, it will print longer, so you could use it for socks and other things. And that printer is very reasonably priced. And the best part of the Sawgrass printers is they're what we refer to as completely turnkey. In other words, from A to Z, they're tuned for sublimation. They're out of the box. You get great hand holding from us to help you learn to do sublimation as well as to help you use the printer. So they're great. The big brother sister for the SG500 is called the 1000. And with the bypass tray, which most people would buy, that allows you to print a paper size of 13 by 21 inches. And that would be your typical sublimation printer, you know, the SG1000. The 500 is a great printer for starting at home or for portability if you're going to be printing at an exhibit or something like that. So you really got two printers, the 500, 1000. Now, Sawgrass, to their credit, has focused on how to make people successful just like we do. And so they've recently rolled out a suite of software for the 500 and 1000, and they call it their Mate software, and basically it's 4 components. And what they're after is to help you with every phase of your sublimation journey. For instance, they have I think they call it, I wrote it down here because they've changed the names recently on it, Design Mate. And the Design Mate software has the templates for the products already in it. It allows you to create a product, to decorate it with a clip art library, literally in minutes, customize it with a name or whatever, and then print it. They also have a component to help you sell it, to help you sell the product. And so we're learning about that component because some time ago they did introduce this and then they weren't quite ready. They've reintroduced it. So we're looking forward to learning more about these new software components. But at this point in time, they certainly look very exciting. So really, we would tell you that you should look at 3 printers, the 500, the 1000, and the Epson F570 would be the proven, very robust printers for sublimation decorating. A lot of people will try to do a turnkey approach, try to be a piecemeal approach, that is. And they'll buy an Epson Echo Tank printer, they'll buy sublimation ink, and they'll try to make everything work together. And that's not a terrible approach, but it is a more challenging approach. And I don't believe in the long run you really save any money by doing that approach. So our strategy would be to provide you a turnkey printer and let us teach you how to do sublimation. And so we do sell bigger printers. And so if you need a bigger printer, we can help you there. We can also do fulfillment on big prints without you having to buy a bigger printer. So, for instance, very popular in the Chromolux metal world to do 40 by 60 prints. In fact, I was in Maui in May and got to walk through all those shops that are now completely destroyed. And metal art going around, I think that was Front Street or whatever, that was just completely obliterated. Shop after shop had the metal prints, and the colors that you can achieve with their type of artwork, their typography was just mind-blowing. It looked so good.
And that's another advantage of the Epson printer is the larger format. And over time, the Epson printer is going to pay for itself because of the lower ink cost, correct?
So, interesting subject. And so what Epson did was they simply raised the price of the printer, and they're getting their money up front. So if you actually look at the economics of, say, the F570, which is an amazing 24-inch wide printer, now you can print smaller, of course, but they just raised the price of the printer so that they charge less for the ink, but they've already gotten their money for the ink.
Yeah, it makes sense.
And the price of printers. So you can criticize that. You can say that was a good idea, but the bottom line is the Epson printers are amazing. They work well. Sawgrass printers are also amazing. One of the things we do for the Sawgrass folks is we have a turnkey onboarding program for people that buy it. We walk you through every step, get your first transfer printed, do your first sublimation, and so you're good to go. The Epson printer would tend to be somebody who needs to print bigger, so they're going to, for instance, probably buy a bigger heat press, but you don't have to. You can buy that later, and so it's an ideal printer for a more serious sublimator.
I'm glad you mentioned heat presses. I think heat presses have probably been around 100 years. I remember heat pressing in my parents' basement with that Instapress with roach transfers, blast from the past. And when I was 5 years old in 1970. So heat press has been around a long time. It doesn't seem like, other than LCD panels and slide out drawers and some of the other tech that's gone on them, they're pretty much fundamentally the same thing. So confession, I did what I said told my customers they should never do. I have a vinyl cutter. I just like doing my own shirts and goofing around. And I bought a $159 Amazon heat press, and boy, do I regret that. And that press is sitting in my garage, boxed up right now, because I couldn't get consistent heat and pressure on that, and my transfers would peel up. And so I just got a professional level press, which was around $1,500. And what a world of difference. And unfortunately, I'm now the official heat presser for our company and all of our uniforms. And in Arizona, it's not a fun thing to do in the summer. But let's talk just quickly about buying a quality press. I know how you feel about this. I know Geonite is in my opinion, the gold standard in sublimation presses. So how important is it to buy a quality press?
So, if you just go into the adage of you get what you pay for, people like Amazon and a few of our competitors will sell low-cost Chinese presses. And if you were to actually cut into the element, what you would find is there's mostly air inside there. They're not well constructed at the heat platen level. They're not really moving a lot of heat, out of the element, and they're just not able to conduct heat to your substrate, to your bottom platen, if you will. And so it becomes a difficult situation to get good results. You can get good results. There are good Chinese presses, sort of a hit and miss. But a made in USA George Knight press, just a literal night and day difference in the quality of the press. For instance, George Knight presses, for the most part, their heating elements are actually warranted for life. And you don't hear that warranty in our industry very often, But when it comes to heat presses from George Knight, which is a 125-year-old company in Brockton, Mass, it's different. So yes, you're going to pay more for your heat press, but it is very likely to outlast your lifetime and be handed down to the next generation. So they're an amazing world of difference in the heat press world. Today, the number of U.S. manufacturers are really down to almost one, as most companies have transferred much of their inventory to China for building. They still build some USA presses, but George Knight is solely made in USA press. In fact, George Knight is probably the only company that makes an A to Z heat press line. They have small presses all the way up to humongous presses, and they make some of the very fancy automatic presses. I was going in a drugstore the other day, and they were actually producing mugs in this drugstore.
Wow.
And I looked back at the heat press, and it was a automatic heat press. It put the transfer on the mug, it would drop it through and cool it, and that heat press indeed was made by the George Knight company. And I called up Aaron, and I said, what's the deal? You've been holding back on me.
Right.
He goes, yes. So they are the go-to when it comes to really producing quality transfer. And I see the Amazon presses. I saw a $250 quote quote automatic press the other day on Amazon, and they're probably not going to be a good press for people in the sublimation world. They're probably not going to deliver great results, and they're certainly not going to last a long time. There's always exceptions, but in general, I would tell you that you are far better off starting with great equipment that we can support.
One of the other things I wanted to ask you about is, graphics. You mentioned the Sawgrass software. I'm a big fan of kind of what they did in an all-in-one solution in terms of being able to create, a design experience for the customer. I know it's pretty much limited to the Sawgrass printers, but the other common products that people are using in the marketplace, Canva, a lot of folks are using Canva. A lot of folks are using CorelDRAW, still is very popular, the Adobe suite products. How important is graphic software from your point of view?
Well, in my books, we talk about value, and I talk about the 3 Ps. First, 3 Ps are the 3 Ps of really any decorating technology. It starts with the process, moves to the product, and then it moves to promotion. And bottom line is, at the process level, your job is to create artwork that sells. And if you can't do that, you're at a significant disadvantage. And I tell people, you need to partner with an artist, partner with someone that can create artwork that's valuable. And the other thing I preach a lot is value. And value ultimately is why we come to work, to deliver value. In the world of sublimation, in pretty much any technology, there are 3 components to value. The first is the blank product. How much is the blank product worth? And, has some utilitarian value, of course. The second part is the artwork, which to me is incredibly important. And the third is, what is your sales and marketing strategy? How are you going to promote this? When people look at what you're doing, does it look like a flea market, or does it look like an upscale boutique store? Because we all know that we're going to pay more if the packaging is better, if the marketing is better, if the presentation's better. But going back to your comment about the art, it's really a matter of how do you do that. And so I ask people, Do you know any software? Do you know any graphic software? They may know Silhouette or whatever. And so you have to figure out what your artwork strategy is. And it starts with what software do you have? What software do you know? But certainly in our industry, the top of the line packages are going to be Corel and Adobe. And that's probably where we all need to go sooner or later. But certainly, if you're just starting off, Sawgrass's Creative Studio is very helpful to getting things going, to allow you to produce good-looking stuff. But as you progress, you'll need to study what's on the market. In the case of your company, Craig, you've got incredibly, to say they're large libraries is a gross understatement. But we need to be able to produce and deliver very good-looking, very appropriate graphics, and do it on demand, do it quickly. And so picking your graphics art strategy doesn't necessarily have to be difficult, hard, or expensive, but you need to have a plan in mind of sort of where you're at today and where you want to go for the future.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And, it's interesting. I always, up until probably recently with some of these newer kind of consumer level graphics programs like Canva or what Sawgrass is doing, pretty much the cost of entry on the graphics side of things was a Corel Draw or an Illustrator or something comparable to that, which have a pretty steep learning curve. They're very powerful. You can do some very dynamic, impressive things that you can't necessarily do in the consumer level products, but it's a pretty big barrier to entry. And one of the things that I was really excited about with the GraphicsFlow application, our cloud-based app, when I had Digital Art Solutions, everything we were doing was on a client-based machine, typically in Corel or Illustrator. We had a software called Smart Designer, which we still have, which automates a lot of these processes, which is still very popular. But when we went to the cloud with our stock art customizer, it made that level of artwork that you can do in Illustrator or Corel Draw accessible to anyone on a phone or a tablet. We're using the robust design engine of a Corel or an Illustrator behind the scenes. So all we have to do is create these really cool on-trend retail graphics. And we have a tool that allows people to swap out the clip art and the colors and the fonts and move things around and really create a great graphic. So to me, that was kind of always my dream. And that became a reality. And frankly, sublimation is a windfall for us because people want to have impressive graphics. And you're absolutely correct. People aren't necessarily buying the blank. There's a utilitarian purpose to the mug, but what they're buying is the picture on the mug or the graphic on the mug or the saying or the slogan on the mug. That's what's driving the sales of the product. And if you don't nail that part down, guess what? Nothing's going to sell.
Do a prediction about how things are going to look in a few years with AI really taking hold of the graphics community.
Well, the one thing that hasn't attracted attention yet, the AI market in terms of what they're doing, like with Midjourney and some of these AI, it's really super impressive. If you want a panda wearing a sombrero sitting at a piano, it can generate that. It's just a giant database software. So it's grabbing images from all over the place. It's not creating the images. It's just grabbing images from all over the place and compiling them together and adding effects and things of that nature. So it's actually super impressive. And I'm a big fan of AI. But what AI hasn't garnered the attention of the merch industry. So their AI isn't making, hey, make me a T-shirt with a mascot that emulates the Baltimore Ravens logo in the same style as the cool stuff that's selling on Fanatics. When we get to that point, that changes everything, right? So we're just not there yet. So if you just want really, cool photographic type images, a tropical scene or something like that, I think AI can be really useful. But for doing like merch graphics, AI is it's not drawing an inked avocado. Human beings drawing, hey, we need an avocado mascot in a kind of a cool cartoony style. Got to be holding a squeegee and a cell phone with a baseball cap with their logo. We're not there with AI yet, but doesn't mean that we won't be. So I think over time, it's certainly going to have an impact. But where AI is really good is automating processes. So things like vectorization. So in terms of like niche markets that you see growing and, state of the union with sublimation, what are some of the niche markets that you see growing? Obviously the athletic uniform and sports uniforms is just blown up, spirit wear, but what are some of the other niche markets that you're seeing?
So it's as we've talked about all these years, one of them is the Jesse James method of determining where you sell your products. And that is, the reporter ultimately got to Jesse James and asked him one simple question. Young female reporter asked Jesse James, "Why do you rob banks?" And of course Jesse James was just amazingly disgusted with the question, and he of course answered. He says, "I rob banks because that's where the money's at." And so that should be the strategy for all of us: is where's the money? One of my favorite markets is in the pet grooming marketplace. So I believe every digital decorator, every sublimator should have these separate streams of income. And my first stream of income is you should partner with a pet groomer. You should set up a little display inside the pet grooming shop with products that people can buy. Usually it's going to be of a deceased dog. But I guess they could send in their cat as well. And the pet groomer will be your wholesale sales agent, if you will, cut them a little of the profit. And it will be amazingly successful because of one simple fact, and that is nobody takes their dog to a pet groomer because they have to.
Right.
They do it because they love their pet. So that would be my first best suggestion for someone that is looking to grow their business is scope out in your market what's sort of the best pet groomer. Now, there isn't anything exciting going on at a pet groomer. That the most exciting thing will be when a dog bites somebody.
Right.
And so they're going to welcome you. And you're going to need to show them, what you can do, that you can take an order from them, and that you'll need to deliver that order, and you can deliver it back to the pet groomer. They can come by and pick it up. So it's a great model. Number two of my great ideas that everybody should do is everybody should get involved with fundraisers.
Absolutely.
We are tired of the fundraisers for chocolate, for popcorn, for wrapping paper. Nobody wants that. But how about a beautiful Christmas ornament? And a lot of our Christmas ornaments, for instance, are double-sided. You could do one side for the organization, the other side for the person. It could be your pet, could be grandchild, child, you name it, family photograph. But it's a winning idea. I've been on the board of directors of schools and done all that, and I can tell you that this is a solid money-making idea for the organization and for you. And the third idea, which we won't go into too much detail today because we're running out of time here, and that is that I think everybody ought to be involved with name badges. Name badges used to be sold by the award shops. The award shops have gone out of business, retired, and so you can carry that torch by producing quality name badges. And I have a number of videos on our YouTube channel, which is condetv.com, that basically explain why sublimation is the best technology, and it is, and how you can really produce name badges that are worth a lot, because it's not a product that has been undersold. You can sell them for $15, and you can do all sorts of fancy magic like sublimate to the backside, the reorder information. You can change the lower 1/3 of the name badge so that it's a walking billboard, and they'll turn it over more often. So you can do all sorts of fancy sales and marketing ideas with a name badge, and it's a stellar profit maker because it does one thing that I don't think any other sublimation product does, and that is you only have to sell it once, and then you just take reorders.
Yeah, I mean, it's such an important point, is you have that repeat sale, and it's kind of rinse and repeat type of a situation. kind of along that same thing, as you're mentioning these products and these niche markets, this is ideally suited for e-commerce. You talk about the pet groomer, like Inksoft, our sister company, being able to set up a store for pet groomers, being able to clone that store. They can go in, upload a photo, select a product, check out. And then also the fundraising component. That's the perfect thing to do. It's usually a standard part of training. When I'm training on stores, I show people how they can set up a fundraising component in their Inksoft store, and they can select a revenue sharing model, either a flat rate or a percentage of profit, and it can actually calculate a tally on the website saying we've raised this much money for this event. And fundraising, once you get that fundraising mechanism in place, something that especially if it's an event or an organization, that they're going to be repeating that periodically throughout the year. So I'm really happy you mentioned the aspect of fundraising. So now it's the fun part. I want to have you talk about technology breakthroughs or on ink, equipment, processes.
Yeah. The first one is called Reveal. Reveal is sort of the DTF for the rest of us. If you go and look at what DTF systems are, they're basically hodgepodge printers that print with white ink. You have to shake white powder over them. And they're just not very practical for most people. They have to be used considerably on a regular basis, or you're going to kill the print head, and you're probably going to kill a print head every 6 months anyway. And so the DTF market is amazing, and if you want to participate, you should probably just buy transfers. But the market to produce the DTF transfers for the rest of us is called Reveal. And basically, this is a shirt that was done with Reveal technology. It's, cotton shirt, so it doesn't require anything special, works on pretty much everything. And the magic of the Reveal system is we use inexpensive Epson printers that have more than 4 channels, so very much like a DTF printer. And in the 5th and 6th channels, we basically run a clear liquid. And when that clear liquid hits the Reveal paper, it turns white. And so it's just a cool, neat way of producing white without printing with white ink. And so you print your transfer, and then you just press it on the shirt, and wherever that clear liquid was, you're going to get white. And so the Reveal technology will begin shipping in September. And we've been using it now for some time, getting it all ready to go. The paper itself is made by the world's best transfer paper manufacturer, a company called Nina. We sell their products. And there'll be a paper that is light, and then there'll be a paper for dark. And basically, you just simply print through the Reveal rip, and it has all sorts of cool, neat features. The rip is made by the great folks at CADLink, and has all sorts of cool, neat features in it that would help you in your graphics preparation. And so it's low cost to buy, low cost printer, low cost ink, relatively low cost on the paper. And it allows you to achieve DTF results yourself. And you don't have to worry about not using the printer. The inks are easy on the printer. You can print a lot if you wish, or you can print a few if you wish. So it's not sublimation, but it has a lot of the characteristics of sublimation. It's essentially surface decorating onto a white or black shirt.
I'm really excited about this technology. You've been teasing me on this for quite some time, and a couple reasons I love it. I'm a big fan of DTF and sublimation transfers. I'm not necessarily a big fan of the investment levels and the current state of the evolution of the printers that are in the marketplace. And I know that'll change and that'll improve over time. But to me, it seems pretty brilliant being able to take an proven Epson printer and repurpose it for a new ink set that can do lights, darks, and cotton. That, to me, that's like the magic combination right there, and a lower cost of entry. And obviously, I mean, I think the print types will be different. They'll have their pros and cons, but this kind of has the feel of a game changer. And I'm really happy that you guys partnered with CADLink on the RIP, because I have a lot of experience with them. RIP software is so critically important to color management and getting good results, speed, and just in general, your workflow with digital printing processes.
Another technology disruptor, and everything has letters. We'll call it DTS, direct to substrate printers. And one of the things that we have achieved with the Rico small DTG printer is to change that printer, change its mindset, if you will. We didn't make any mechanical changes, but we turned it into a direct to substrate printer.
Wow.
With the help of one of our great partners called Cheryl Kuchek. And
yeah, I know Cheryl.
What Cheryl basically did was to understand what the printer actually is doing, and to come up with easy ways to put hard, flat substrates into the printer and just simply print directly onto them. And through her help, we now can cram lots and lots of stuff you could buy at Hobby Lobby, Michael's, and you can just print directly onto it. And so it is, I think it's been a game changer with decorating technology. So it goes places, obviously, you can't go with sublimation. You can't print on some of these substrates. For instance, you could put a paper bag in it, print on it. So, you know, you can take something that really has almost no cost, turn it into something that is worth a lot of money, and sell it. And all this stuff happens in, you know, literally minutes. You can do that. So that's the Rico RI100.
That's the small printer, right?
It's a small printer, and we've been able to do larger items by simply doing multiple prints. If you can take a vector element or any kind of element, break it apart, then you can do it into multiple elements. So for very little money, you've got a great product. Other technology advances at Conde is we now are beta testing our digital mockup software. And so this is a website feature that you can upload your graphic, choose the product, and put the graphic on the product. Amazing success story with that. So if you'll contact your Conde rep, we can help you get involved with the beta testing of the mockup software. We're also adding some elementary quote generation tools so that you could quote the product out to your client as well. In addition, we've really gone hog wild, as we would say in the South, with our really product selling and costing calculator. And so that's a feature now that is on our website. Your Conde rep can tell you how to get involved with that. But, you know, number one issue certainly with most people is setting a selling price that is outside the industry norm, or setting a selling price that is just ridiculously minimal profit. And so the cost calculator helps with that. Our Sawgrass ink recycling program, everybody should take advantage of that has a Sawgrass printer. We'll pay you $5 to send us your cartridge.
Nice.
And so it's a great way to both keep the cartridges out of a landfill, get them recycled, and plus you can earn $5 per cartridge. The last I almost forgot is we have built a new educational platform. I don't think we've discussed this, Craig. It's called sublimation.university. Sublimation.university. And to me, it is the first, what I call, formal educational platform in existence for teaching what I call best practices with sublimation success. And so we will sell you a lesson, and you can walk through that lesson and to all the different parts of learning sublimation. It is designed for people who are now entering the sublimation world. And we will add advanced lessons. We'll add lessons on using the Rico and other platforms. In addition, for Sublimation University, we also have a community that you can join. And this community will have projects that we'll do sort of for everybody in the community. For instance, we did sort of a travel group of products. For the last one is really cute. And I was amazed at the artwork that people would present. The one we'll do for the community on, I guess, tomorrow, is walking people doing stacked metal. I don't know if we've ever talked about doing stacked metal, but basically it's how do you add value to your products? And one of the ways is you take two pieces of Chromolux metal, one larger, one smaller,
Right.
decorate them, and then you put them together with some spacer blocks, and you've got something that didn't really cost much more, but is certainly worth a lot more money.
Well, David, that's going to probably wrap it up for time, but I'm really glad we had an opportunity to get together and kind of get up to speed. I learned a ton, and it sounds like there's some exciting new technology coming down the pipeline for Conde Systems, and this is part of a series, so this is the first webinar in this series. So we'll look forward to seeing those of you that are interested in keeping up with things on the future webcasts. And please say hi to your staff for me, and thank you again for coming on. It's much appreciated, and it's always great to hang out.
Well, Craig, as well, we very much enjoy our partnership and how we're growing together. And again, it all comes down to me. It comes down to, we'll call it best practices in education. And we don't want people reinventing the wheel. And then education is so important. That's where we're investing in our videos in sublimation.university. Sublimation.university should be live where you can actually buy the course in early September. You can join the community now. But we believe programs like this are key to helping people be successful.
Well, thanks again, and we'll see you on the next one.